Alright folks, today we are going to be making some really cool food with the ghost pepper. How we're going to do that is in the kitchen. So you're going to come with me into my test kitchen. We are going to make ourselves some ghost pepper excellence, straight from Peppers, Oregon. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my test kitchen. I'm talking to you today with regard to a wonderful and outstanding recipe that I have in my own little arsenal of recipes, and that is the Asian ribeye au pois. Now this steak is a wonderful, succulent, and juicy steak that will be accompanied by a specific pepper that I've decided to use in this recipe called the ghost pepper. Now the ghost pepper is probably the hottest pepper known to man, with the exception of maybe dried capsaicin, and nobody really uses that except for chili. But I can tell you that peppers are measured by Scoville, and this one is quite possibly the highest at over 1 million. So that being said, you can understand I'm going to be very liberal with my use of the ghost pepper, both on the steak and in the sauce. So without any further ado, I give you the Asian ribeye au pois steak with ghost peppers. And so, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in my kitchen. I'd like to just go over a few of our basic ingredients before we get started. This right here is a red pepper. These, cloves of garlic. This, a wonderful succulent piece of prosciutto ham. This, wow, 14-ounce grade USDA Angus ribeye. Portobello mushrooms. A nice big thick piece of feta cheese. A beautiful succulent onion. And about a half to two-thirds of a cup of baby spinach. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about the ingredients of our sauce and our marinade. Right here I have the Thai chili pepper sauce. This is 2 tablespoons. Right here is naturally brewed soy sauce. That's the only soy sauce I use. It has a very distinct flavor. You always probably wonder when you go to a Japanese restaurant, how does their soy sauce taste different? The salt content in naturally brewed soy sauce is very mellowed, and I like that flavor, so that's why I mention it. This is 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, and this, my friends, is a concoction that I make. It's called a ginger paste. I take fresh ginger, a little bit of olive oil, and also some apple cider vinegar, and I mash it up into a paste in my RoboCoupe, and I make sure then that this actually blends very well with the sauce and with the marinade. I get a real thorough flavor of ginger that way. And then this is, and by the way, that amount right there is about 1 tablespoon. And then this right here is 1.5 tablespoons of vegetable oil divided, and obviously for very specific reasons, you'll see why in just 1 second. And then at the end, oh, look at this, the ghost pepper. Yeah, I use a spoon here because I do not want my fingers touching those peppers. We touch our face more than 1,000 times a day, and if you get that on your finger, trust me, you'll know the rest of the week. So, always use either latex gloves or use a utensil like a spoon when you're dealing with something with such a high Scoville as ghost peppers. Well, that's all the education we have. Let's get busy and let's start making this awesome steak. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start getting all my prep out of the way. So I've put a little bit of olive oil, season this with kosher salt and pepper, put the spinach in the saute pan, and just got it a little bit braised. The next thing I did is chopped up the red peppers, julienne style, about 1/4 inch. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and saute them very similar to the way I did the spinach. Now I put a little bit of a crispiness to the spinach because this is going to be the finished result I have. But I'm not going to be doing that with the peppers. You also know I'm using a different pan. I always use a Teflon pan when I'm doing the spinach because it gives it a better finish. Don't ask me why. I wish I knew, but I always get a better finish with crispy spinach when I do it like that. So I'm going to season this with same thing, kosher salt, cracked pepper, and then we're going to move on to the next item. Now, when those peppers are, while those peppers are cooking, I'm going to show you a really cool trick here with garlic. Just take the bottom of your blade and make sure that you've got it, boom, like that. And the garlic will just pop right out of the skin. I've seen people sit there for hours trying to get the garlic out, and that's the simplest. Can you see that? It's the simplest way of doing it with no skin. So I'm going to chop all those up really into nice little circles. I don't want to coarsely chop this. I want the people to see the garlic in the dish. So I'm going to chop this up into like little circles, julienne cut again, and then mix those with the peppers. Okay, so now I've got my garlic right here. As you can see, I've chopped it into those little circles. I'm going to put those into my pepper mix now, just like so. You see the peppers are getting a nice color. The idea whenever you're sauteing or braising is to keep the color of the food. So we don't want to overcook this stuff. You know, you can see that the peppers have gone from red to a very bright orange, which means they're almost done. I am, however, going to use the secret ingredient right now. And, spilled the ghost pepper. And I'm going to put that in there. So now, as you can see, we have the red pepper with a little bit of the ghost pepper flakes, and very apparent that you can see the garlic, which is exactly what I wanted. The last piece of our vegetable prep is going to be the onion. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did with the peppers, but I will not add garlic and I will not add the ghost pepper flakes. I'm just going to cut this julienne and then saute it up in the pan. Okay, so now I've cut the onions julienne style there, same thickness, and I'm going to go ahead and place them in the frying pan. I've seasoned the frying pan and I've used a little more oil. With Asian cooking, it really is important to make sure that you take all the steps appropriately. I'm doing this piece by piece for you so that you can see getting the prep out of the way makes assembling the dinner so much easier. But when we're finished with these onions, we're going to put them in another container, keep them separate from the rest, and we're going to move on to seasoning the steak. Okay, first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take some kosher salt. And I'm going to hit that with some kosher salt on both sides. I use that kosher salt specifically because it melts better, it has a better flavor, and more importantly, the bigger crystals really lend to giving a good coverage without me having to really douse the steak in salt like most places do. Okay, and so now what I'm doing here is I'm just going ahead, and can you see that? Yeah, so you're just going to go ahead and add some ground pepper on the top. I'm going to do this on both sides. Okay, so the steak is now completely seasoned. This is my Feta Prosciutto Portobello mushroom recipe. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of oil, season the gills. These are the gills right here inside. Yeah, if you can see that, the gills right there. I'm going to season those gills with some oil, some kosher salt, and some pepper. I'm going to crumble the feta cheese into the interior part of the mushroom, and then I'm going to cover the mushroom with a fold of prosciutto ham. When I bake off the final ingredients for the steak, this will go into the oven at 375 for approximately 3 to 5 minutes, and we will finish this with a little bit of oil on the plate. It'll make for a very dramatic garnish, and certainly the flavors of this will blend very well with the meat flavor of our Angus ribeye. And now, as you can see, we have finished the portobello mushroom, and I'll show you really here what it looks like. There's the feta cheese inside. I seasoned and oiled it, as I said before, and I have wrapped it with the prosciutto ham. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we can now see that we've completed the system. We have our onions, we have our peppers with garlic, we have our prosciutto mushrooms, we have our crispy spinach, and we have a Susan steak. We're now going to go ahead and use all of our sauces now, make the sauce and marinade, and then get down to the final fun part. Okay, so in this mixing bowl, I am going to go ahead and I am going to add my Thai chili sauce. Okay. My soy sauce, my balsamic vinegar, and my ginger paste. And if you don't want to do it this way, you can just use regular fresh ginger and just chop it up. Now the next step is whisk this together. Now I'm going to go ahead and whisk this all together like so until I have a very nice mixture, okay? And I'm going to tell you that the important thing to do with this mixture is to make sure you split this into two parts. One part should be 2/3 of this mixture, and then the other part should be 1/3. So basically, I would say if you have a ramekin like this, just fill it back up with about 2 tablespoons of the sauce and leave the rest in the bowl. So as you can see now, I have split up the sauce. I've put the majority of the sauce in the bowl and those 2 tablespoons over there. What I am now about to do is going to be absolutely amazing. I'm going to take another small, I'm going to say this is 1/8 of a teaspoon, and I'm going to put it into the bowl. And that, my friends, is all I am going to do with the ghost pepper, because I've already put enough into this. Now I'm going to just go ahead and mix that up a little more, just like that. And then I am going to go ahead and take our seasoned steak and place that into the marinade. I'm going to keep that in there and make sure it gets total coverage. Okay? So sides, everywhere. Total coverage of this wonderful sauce and marinade. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this and let it sit for about 10 minutes. And I'm going to take the remainder, and you'll notice that I have not cleaned this pan. I haven't cleaned it because all the great stuff that's in there right now, I want in this sauce. So I'm now going to put the remainder of the sauce in here, and I'm just going to go ahead and whisk it around. And then once I've gotten to a point where I feel real good about this, I'm going to go ahead and, you see how the bubbles are starting around the edges? I'm going to go ahead and start adding some rice wine vinegar and butter to finish. Okay, so now I'm going to add just about 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar, just like that. And that's going to kind of dilute it a little. Go ahead and mix that up again. Rice wine also offers a kind of a sweet and sour flavor. It'll help thicken it with the butter when I add the butter to it. So now I'm going to turn the sauce off the heat. Very, very important now, folks. Turn the sauce off the heat and then add the butter. I'm just adding, this is probably the equivalent of about 1 tablespoon. And as you can see, because I added that vinegar, the sauce has now become very thick. Perfect example of emulsification. Now, one more thing too while we're at it. You'll notice that I used the sauce in 2 separate containers. Once you've put something in a marinade like this, you're going to discard that marinade and cook the steak immediately. Let's get going. Okay, again, you'll notice I have not cleaned the bowl. There is my sauce, and I'll be using that to finish the plate today. This is the remainder of the vegetable oil that we split up on 2 separate containers. One we used for all the vegetables. This is the last of it. I'm going to put that in the pan like so. We're going to get that pan heated up. Then I'm going to take my steak that's been sitting here now for about 10 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and place it into the pan, scraping off any excess marinade that I may have. I'm making sure that that marinade, you'll also notice the steak is a lot more pliable. That's what this marinade will do. I'm going to just go ahead, drop it in that oil, like so. Looking good, my friends, looking good. We're just going to brown each side, and then we're going to finish this off in the oven, and I'll show you how that works. So, as you can see, the browning along the edges and along the top of the meat, this is what we want. We just want it to brown. We do not want it to cook. Okay, so you want to get all that goodness that's in the pan, get that all cooked onto the steak, and then once you've got that steak right where you want it, then it's time to finish it in the oven. Perfect, look at that, that's gorgeous. I'm going to put the mushrooms on here too, and then we're going to cook this at 375 degrees for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then we're going to let that meat rest. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pull the steak out, and let's see what we got. Oh yeah, look at the mushrooms, look at that, oh, look at that steak. Alright, what we're going to do there is we're going to let that steak rest. What I mean by rest is exactly what it sounds like. We're just going to leave it there. And the reason we're going to leave it there is just because right now this steak is very tight. Imagine if you burned your own hand, you'd go like this and move your hand, and then you'd have a blister. Just because the meat isn't living anymore doesn't mean that it doesn't react the same way. It's tight right now because it's been surrounded by heat and it's been seared. We let it sit for a while, and over time the meat will release. And when the meat releases, you're going to see juices all around the sides here, which would be great gravy for it. And we're going to use that too. Right here is our mushrooms. They've come out really nice. Look at that. Almost like a little gift. We're going to use those on the dish to finish the dish. And while we're waiting for that to rest, we're going to go take our vegetables and get them ready for the plate. And that, my friends, is the plate. I have a big steak, so I'm going to be using a big plate. So I'm going to be taking my vegetables right now, getting everything prepared, so I have a nice hot dish ready to serve. Okay, so we've returned back to the steak, and as you can see, look at all those great juices. Look at all the blood that's coming up off the top of the meat. This is a perfect indication this is almost ready to serve. In the meantime, I took the mushrooms and I placed them on the big plate. And you can see that I put a little bit of the sauteed onion. I chopped up one of the peppers, and I put a little bit of sauteed onion and some pepper on top of these wonderful mushrooms with a beautiful piece of our crispy spinach. Now, I've done this because I want to tie in the ingredients from the steak that I've cooked over here into my garnish and in my place setting. Very shortly, I will take the reservoir juices right here, which will thin this juice out, thin this sauce out just enough to make it look wonderful on the plate. So stay tuned. So we're ready to add some of that sauce. I'm going to do it right now here. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Steak wants to go with us. Awesome. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, so now what we've done is we've put the juice into this wonderful sauce that I have here. We're going to mix that up. That looks awesome now. That sauce is in a perfect consistency now. And we've got a really good flavor in there, so we're going to look at that in just a second. Now we're going to take the steak and we're going to place it on the plate here with the mushrooms and the garnish. This is going to be amazing. Okay, so here we go. We're going to place the steak right onto the plate. Nice little purchase there. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, and what we're going to do here is we're going to take the sauce now, and we're just going to drizzle this along the garnish. Perfect. And we're going to leave that be for 1 second. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our red peppers. Now this is where the au poivre comes in. The red peppers, along with the seasoning of the pepper that's on the steak, and the ghost pepper that we've placed both in the sauce and in the steak seasoning itself, is really going to lend to that au poivre. I put the onions on top of that, like so. Oh, look at that. And then finally, the last piece, which is my signature item, the crispy spinach on the top like that. And finish this off now with some wonderful sauce on the steak. Oh, it's mouthwatering. And we'll just clean that up a little, like so. And ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Asian steak au pois with ghost peppers. Bon appetit. Okay, I'm going to take this this piece of beautiful steak here and get some of that gravy. And I'm going to eat this steak. Oh, God, that's heat. I only get my flavor. It's just amazing. Yep. I'm so is the heat. I only get my ghost peppers from Peppers in Oregon. And they really are the most amazing peppers I've tasted to date. And I have tasted a lot of peppers, like I'm going to taste this one. Folks, you can't do better than this. Make this as soon as you possibly can. And don't forget to get your ghost peppers straight from Peppers in Oregon.